So nearby Brad and Nisha, we're here for a special episode of Fact Fiend Focus, where you can clearly tell we're crammed in. This is like when you get to a pub and it's like, you got a table for three, and like, yeah, don't worry about it.
Just
it's like
in the corner with all the stuff.
Just everything stacked up. But, you know, we're here today to talk about movies, specifically bad movies. I want the audience at home to join in with this one, but first, do something I know is very difficult on the internet. Listen to what we're about to say first, and then respond. So, I wanted today to talk about bad movies, but specifically bad movies that you think have value and why. So what I did is I asked our audience and you guys to think of some bad media you think has value with the reasons why. And while you ever think, we'll go through the ones suggested by our audience now. And if you'd like to join in on this next time, you can join our Patreon link below, or you can follow us on the socials, which are also linked below, and suggest them for next time. So keep an eye on those. But the first one we have is, it looks like I've got one on my laptop, but actually on my phone.
Why ruin the illusion?
It's fine. Just
pick up your phone then.
So the first, no, it's fine. It's fine. So the first one we have is from Donald93 on Instagram, Mystery Men. So they describe Mystery Men as Hank Azaria is a superhero who throws cutlery and then uses cutlery-related quips, such as throwing a spoon and saying, "Leaving you so spoon."
I say, what the fork? Let's do it.
I would watch that.
Nice to see you.
And that's what I mean, and to clarify, when I say it has value, it can be because you just think it's funny. A bad movie can still be entertaining. That's why The Room's so popular, isn't it?
Yep.
But in the same vein, it might have other value to you, such as Improv GM on Twitter suggests that Jesus Christ, a vampire hunter. And they say the reason they think it has value is that it has an inexplicable music number. And just the idea of them making that movie and then putting a musical number in there. And they continue to say,
absolute banger.
And the theme song is "Everybody Gets Laid Tonight."
Everybody gets laid tonight.
It's not consistently entertaining, but it takes such weird swings that they ended up laughing at it and think that alone makes it worth watching, to see a film where they just take such bizarre, strange twists and turns. And then we have another one here from Cinema Panda Man, House of the Dead, which I am familiar with. And do you know anything about the career, or lack thereof, of filmmaker Uwe Boll?
No.
So Uwe Boll is infamous for making low-grade video game-related movies. And he's so bad at this that he asked whoever owns Warcraft for their license, and they responded, "We will never sell our license, especially not to you." And Cinema Pandaman says it showcases every single basic filmmaking mistake possible. If you are able to identify and avoid them, you'll be able to make a competent movie. And then the final one we have is from Discord by Freedom's Flame, Wild Zero, a campy as hell zombie movie, which is an incredible experience because the director did music videos before it, so it has an incredibly strange, interesting style. And that's the thing there, it's a wide range of, bad to good movies that have, some value, at least according to our audience at home. And the reason I wanted to have this discussion today is because I think people today don't know what bad movies are. And it's something I've heard described as the Disney problem. The basic idea is that most people don't know what bad movies are because they only consume the big blockbusters, which are normally put out by Disney because they own everything, all their animated output. And as a result, they don't really know what a bad movie is anymore because
they don't watch the bad, low-rated films, I guess. Then,
and even the worst Disney movies are still pretty good. Even if you think of just on the technical level, let's use the example of The Last Jedi, probably one of the most maligned movies of the last 10 years. People will say it's the worst thing ever made, and it's is the camera in focus? And that sounds like a pretty low bar, right? Of the
it's a bar that we've not crossed.
That's big, but how many? There are plenty of B movies out there where they don't even cross that line. But because people don't consume media that barely crosses that line or fails to cross that line, they don't have the context required to say that something is truly bad.
Yeah.
And it's the same thing with animation and CGI, where animation and CGI is so good in blockbusters these days that people have such a warped, skewed perspective of what bad animation and CGI looks like, to the point where they'll point at what is otherwise fairly competent, good CGI and say it looks bad because it doesn't look as good as the stuff in a $300 million Marvel production.
But it still looks good compared to
the bad stuff, which they don't watch because they only watch blockbusters.
Yeah.
Their view of what's bad is so warped. It's like the Dunning-Kruger effect for film. What do you think? every driver thinks they're above average, which means that the average is now above average, but they don't know what that is. It's like, oh, and it's like
Everyone's a bad driver.
yeah, but everyone thinks they're a better driver. So I think like everyone watches good movies, but then so as a result you'll see that's kind of like kind of bad.
Yeah.
The worst movie ever. So it's not, is it? So it's not The Room. Is
Oh my
it?
God.
That's the thing. Yeah, people say The Room.
That's the thing that like is you need to watch bad films like that because they're so funny. Because they are bad, they're so funny. So you can still get some enjoyment out of it.
Of course, yes. And they have value in the sense like the enjoyment that you can get from, but also they're a really good teaching tool to show you what not to do.
Yeah.
And that's what I've asked our audience to do and you guys to do. So Brad, what is the bad movie you would like to talk about and just sing the praises of?
Well, I've brought a DVD with me,
Okay.
and this is the DVD for the Silent Hill movie.
Okay, so we can double check like what rating that got. 'Cause, I think that's
Very middle of the road.
Yeah,
I
I was
believe
like-
it's 31% on Rotten Tomatoes.
so not like the best.
And about 6 out of 10 on IMDb.
Silent Hill rating film. Go on. So talk about the film a little bit then.
So if anyone hasn't seen this, obviously
31%, yeah.
Yeah.
6 out of 10. So, just below what you'd probably get for like, a Marvel movie.
Yeah, and Silent Hill was obviously, it still is a really popular franchise. And around the time it was popular, they wanted to make a film out of it, so they made this. And it's a very Americanized. I mean, Silent Hill is meant to be in America, the actual town, isn't
Yeah.
it? Yeah. But it's got, of some big names like Sean Bean's in it.
Who dies?
He doesn't. The reason I brought this in, the reason I wanted to put forward this one, is because I watched it again recently, and the plot isn't great. Like, they didn't do a particularly good job of translating the proper eeriness of the setting and the stories and stuff, that kind of thing, into the film. But the visuals and the art design are great.
Yeah, I remember the practical effects being really good, like the pyramid head.
Yeah.
It's like an actual practical. They got a huge, big, buff dude and put him. They built an actual big pyramid for his head.
Yeah, the scene where Pyramid Head first introduced, he walks out of a doorway covered in bugs and emerges from the bugs. But the transition in the scene where it turns into like the other world, the alternate dimension, whatever it is that Silent Hill exists in, and all of the paint and everything falls off the walls, and you get this like obviously this like red, gory aesthetic, and then they have that. I can't remember his name, but there's the one who's chained up in the toilet cubicle.
That
with
guy,
he comes to life and crawls out of it, and I believe that is practical. They had an actual guy
It's
do
a
it,
contortionist, yeah.
And so I wanted to bring this up because the film, like I said, the actual story of the film isn't amazing, but it does look good. There's a lot of really good moments in it, and you can take screenshots, and it just looks great. It looks nice, so I would recommend it.
And also, if you are a fan of the games, like it doesn't really translate the story that well, but the look of that film did influence the look of the games. Because the next game's come out, I think Homecoming, directly ripped off the idea of the way the world looks when it turns to Silent Hill. Because they were apparently the game makers, they just liked the visual of the world stripping away.
Yeah.
So they put that into their game. And again, like it has value in the sense like they created not a great film, they didn't translate the source material all that well, but they created a unique visual that was like evidently good enough where the people who make Silent Hill games like, hey, we should nick that. That's ours, right? We own this, right? We can just take this. Nisha, like you didn't bring a prop, but you have a movie to talk about, yes?
I keep laughing about the film that I'm going to bring up because it is very The Room-esque.
Okay.
So it's the whole, bad acting, the story is shit, basically. And I'm going to say the name of the film and people are going to immediately think of the one famous scene, which is Troll 2.
Is that the... Oh my god!
They're eating her. And then they're going to eat
me!
They're eating her, and then they're going to eat me. Oh my god!
So I thought, because that scene's just hilarious.
It's iconic, yeah, it'll live forever.
I wonder if the whole film is that bad, and it is. I just recommend you watch it if you want to spend the entire time laughing and being like, what the fuck? Because, the acting is terrible. Like, there's just no emotion. There's just things that don't make sense. Like, this is basically the main character's a little boy, and he keeps seeing his deceased granddad.
His bad granddad. That's another film.
His granddad. And his granddad's warning him about these. They're not even called trolls. They're called goblins.
Well, yeah, the film Troll 2 isn't a sequel to Troll 1.
Yeah, it's not. They're not.
They just called it Troll 2.
That's a very basic lesson in filmmaking. Like you're allowed to do that, apparently.
But yeah, they're not even called trolls, they're called goblins. So he's warning his grandson about these goblins. And then the family go on this vacation. And there's a scene that I just laughed at so much in the car. Because the mum's arguing with the daughter. And she's like, oh, I'm fed up with this arguing. Please, so I think Joshua's the name of the son. Joshua, sing that song I like. And he's like, oh, I don't feel like singing. She's like, please sing that song I like. And I was like, oh, I wonder what the song is. Row, row, row your boat.
Come on, sing that song I like so much. Row, row, row your boat gently down a stream.
And then she joins in with the singing, and then the dad joins in, but he's out of sync. And it's just like, what?
Merrily, 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 life is but a dream. Row, row, row your boat gently down the stream.
You're just singing this out of like time. Row, row your boat is amazing. And yeah, there's just like, there's moments like when you see the goblins.
The trolls.
The trolls! You see them, and every time you see them chasing someone, they play really upbeat music. But yeah, there's like just really funny moments. I just think, oh my god. Like, I think there's one I've seen before actually where the lad who says the iconic line is helping a girl who's been attacked by the goblins, and they come across this house. They walk in the house, and the guy's like, what is this place? And this woman out of nowhere just goes, this is my house!
This is my house.
Why would she do that? And then, like, because they're injured, she offers them this steaming green brew, like, and they drink it. It's like, why would you drink that? And then the girl starts throwing up and decides to go up the stairs. She's like in pain, like crouched over, like throwing up, and thinks, oh, I'll go up the stairs. And then she goes up the stairs, and that's when she melts, and then that scene happens because all the goblins come out and start eating her.
And then they're going to eat him.
Yeah.
Oh my
But
god.
they don't, though. That's the thing, they don't, because he turns into this half man, half like tree plant thing.
See you later, my little flower.
The thing I asked what is, she should bring a bad movie. It sounds awesome.
It's a bad film that you need to see.
Yeah, because like just sheer entertainment, but also it's like the person like we quoted earlier, like it teaches you what not to do, and if you don't know what not to do, how will you know what to do? Because that's the thing. Is like there's a very famous Roger Ebert quote about the film Battlefield Earth. Do you know Battlefield Earth? Like one of those legendarily bad films ever, where they overuse Dutch angles. And Dutch angles, very simply, if anyone doesn't know, is where you tilt the camera. Yeah. That's it. You tilt the camera so slightly, and it's supposed to give you a sense of unease. Like you mentioned getting chased by the goblin creatures earlier. In a scene like that, you would more than likely tilt the camera.
We did have like a low angle.
A low angle, because that conveys like things that are shot from a low angle look more imposing. Things that look from a higher angle, like we do now, look less imposing. Look like more, just one of those things. That's the basic language of film. And like but throughout Battlefield Earth, they constantly have Dutch angles in almost every scene, to the point where they are looking at something on a monitor that also has a Dutch angle. So in the universe, they also film in Dutch angles.
So it actually writes itself.
Yeah, and the Roger Ebert quote about it is like, the director of this film knows that better filmmakers tilt their camera, but he does not know why.
Maybe he just had a tripod with one short leg.
Maybe, but that's like the idea there of like, cause when we mention like Citizen Kane, we talk about everyone calls it the best movie ever made, but they never tell you why.
Yeah, I had to look it up because I think when we talked about it, I said like I watched it and it was fine.
Yeah.
But I didn't understand why it was supposedly the best movie ever made. And there's obviously a lot of reasons behind that. It's to do with how it was made and the fact that it set the standard for what films became.
Yeah, and no one ever tells, same with like bad movies, no one ever tells like, oh, this movie's bad. Like you must like the discourse online with any movie that people don't like, or is like has a very like divisive, like not critical but like audience reception, like a Captain Marvel, a Last Jedi, anything like that. It's bad. Why? I don't like it. Why? They can never explain. It's bad. And if you lack the tools to be able to explain that, then
maybe it's just their opinion, then, isn't it?
Yeah.
I don't like it. It's just your opinion. You don't like that story. Someone else might.
Yeah.
So it's like it doesn't make it a bad film. It just means you don't like it.
Yeah, and the opinion of it is bad is fine, but for me, as someone who loves media and loves discussing it, that conversation doesn't really interest me because it's not a conversation. It's just I don't like it. Great. And that's why I want to do this series, and hopefully if people like this and they have some suggestions, we can do it for other media. I love discussing media and improving people's media literacy. And to end on, speaking of media literacy, we're going to talk about two of my favourite films here. Actually, not two of them. One of my favourite films.
The Thing and the Thing.
Well, speaking of media literacy and not noticing things, I own The Thing on DVD, and I rewatch it every single year. And I was like, you know what? I want to get The Thing on Blu-ray. So I went to the store and I bought The Thing on Blu-ray. It looks the same, right?
Yeah.
That's the same movie.
Yeah.
That's
slightly different. Yeah.
That's the prequel.
Oh.
Yeah, because I didn't know it's at the top from the producers of Dawn of the Dead. And if you turn it over, it's the prequel.
Oh.
So I own The Thing on DVD, but I own the prequel on Blu-ray. So the bad movie I want to recommend is this one. And
this is definitely an example of what not to do.
Exactly, yes, because I've talked in the past about my love for practical effects, and practical effects often get held up as like practical effects are better than CGI. I don't agree with that. I think CGI is a tool that is like any others, can be overused or used poorly. But for the most part, CGI is great. It's not great when it's used improperly, which it is in spades in this movie. Because we have talked before about how they did a bunch of practical effects a la The Thing, from Amalgamated Dynamics, I think it is.
Yeah.
And what they did is, the people watching it, like the dailies, didn't realise that practical effects only look good from the specific angle which you film them from. So the story goes, they walked in, saw these practical effects, and well, these look crap. Like you can see the wires. Like, well, you'll see the wires, yeah, but when we film it and angle it in such a way and put smoke in there, and we go into afterwards we put some vignettes around it, and then we use CGI to enhance our practical effects, it'll look fantastic. But they're like, no, it looks shit. And what they did is they got a CGI studio in to literally paint over the practical effects, which is why the practical effects in that movie are non-existent. And their CGI look bad because they're painting over other people's effects. And I think just more than anything, that serves as an example. It has value in showing you why CGI is a tool that should not be misused or overused or be over-relied on.
I think a good way of showing people this is Jurassic Park, obviously one of the most well-known films to bring CGI into the mainstream. If you go on YouTube, well, we're on YouTube now.
Yeah.
If you're on YouTube and you look up the stop motion tests for Jurassic Park, they are almost as good as the CGI.
Almost, yeah.
Yeah, and they're still amazing. And if they'd done that film with a stop motion, it probably would have also looked good. So it doesn't. The tool itself isn't important. It's how it's used.
Yeah.
And like with The Thing, if you look at the behind the scenes stuff of those creatures, they're so much more terrifying when they're not CGI.
Yeah.
Because they're so real.
Yeah, because like when I went to Universal Studios, there's the Velocicoaster.
Yeah.
And during the queue,
Velocicoaster.
That's pretty good. I like that. The
because
Velocicoaster.
it like shoots you out. At,
Does it go Velocifaster?
Yeah, I guess you could say that. But yeah, it's meant to be the speed of them, how fast they go, because it shoots you out. But when you're waiting in the queue, they have the robotic faces of like caged velociraptors, and they look real and scary. And I think that's terrifying. That works very well compared to CGI. That is like, especially with technology these days, you can make stuff like that look more real. So I think it works very well.
Like with the Thing, they should have used the practical effects and then added the CG over the top for like the things like the limbs, the movement.
Well, that's what they wanted to do, yeah. And that was the original plan. That's why I think, as much as I hate this movie, it's one of my most hated movies, I hate that I own it on Blu-ray. I was so mad when I got it home and
Sell
put
it.
Because I thought when I put it in like my Blu-ray player, oh, is it a special double feature? No, when I looked at the back, I bought the wrong one. So here's me talking about, all these things you don't notice. I did not notice I bought the wrong fucking movie. So even I'm not immune to this.
I mean, that's not your fault for the fact they called the prequel sequel The Thing.
Well, I should have noticed it did say John Carpenter's The Thing.
But I mean, does that one say that?
John Carpenter's The Thing, yeah.
But I hate it when films call themselves the same thing. The worst offender of this is Halloween. Because there's the original 1978, like the original Halloween. Then there's the Halloween reboot, or remake, which is also called Halloween.
Halloween H2O,
but
Halloween
then there's
2, Halloween the Final Chapter.
But there's 3 films called Halloween.
Yeah.
Original Halloween, remake Halloween, and then the reboot sequel Halloween. All 3 just called Halloween. So you have to call them all Halloween 2018, Halloween 2007, or whatever it was. Like,
it's just another.
give it a different name.
But it's like to put a nice bow on hopefully this interesting, I hope again, discussion. The reason I think that has value is it's a great example of something that it's a discussion that is not very nuanced online. Like when you bring up CGI, but practical effects are better, and they say that, but they don't ever explain why. Or they'll say CGI is terrible, but they don't explain why. And if you go read interviews or watch discussions with actual filmmakers, they'll say no, CGI and and practical effects are just tools in the filmmaker's arsenal. Both are just as good as each other, and they both have their place. And that's the nuance that I think is lost. And I think The Thing, if you watch it as a double feature of a movie that was like before the time of CGI, and then a movie like 20, 30 years later, where it's entirely reliant on CGI, you can see like, because that's the thing. The Thing, fantastic movie. Some of those effects, you look at them and go, it's not great. That's not great. You understand, the context when it made, but that's not great. And that's the thing, I think the juxtaposition of hard, straight, all practical effects, all CGI, you'll see that neither is perfect, neither is flawless. Obviously one's got more flaws than the other because one was a bit more hasty. But you can see there that both have their place and both have the utility. I think that's why it has value.
It would be it is a fascinating case study to have two films that are so close together. They've got the same sort of creatures, the same location, the same aesthetic, the same. But the big difference is
one's entirely practical, one's entirely CGI, and you can see neither is perfect, but obviously one's worse because one doesn't have the prestige or anything like that. But I think that's why it has value, and I hope at the very least someone's taken something from this. Of the next time you want to talk about a movie, maybe think about why you don't like a movie or why you do like a movie, and maybe consider the next time you're scrolling on Netflix or just a streaming service and you see something starring an actor you like or a genre you like, but you're not quite sure on it or it has a low rating, watch it. The worst that's going to happen is you're going to expand your knowledge and learn more about what you do and do not like. Or
you can find something that's hilariously bad, which is always good.
Yeah, and if you've enjoyed this discussion and you'd like to support the channel, you can follow us on Patreon below, where there'll be an extended cut of the discussion with just us talking more about bad movies that we like. Well, either way, cheers for tuning in, like, comment, subscribe, all that good stuff, and see you all next time.
It's been a while since I've played this one.
I don't think I've ever played this game.
I think I'm going to choose Patrick Bratson.
Oh yeah, well, I'm going to go for Benjamin Friedman.
Right, let's fight. Everyone ignore the fact that it's clearly Mortal Kombat 10.
Oh, I thought it was Shay Pinder.
Oh, I can't believe you're off with a mile-high farm ND maneuver.
Just sat there I can't believe you. It's really awful.
The more you laugh, the longer it takes.
Okay. You try and stop me with that Ceropol maneuver, I'm going to get you with my Liam.
Did you just aero QC me?
I did. The famous Kynan plays games combo coming in.
Yeah, but I bet you weren't expecting ka-chow, the jet road!
I'm getting beat up like Bingo over here.
Yeah, it's popsicle tart.
Yeah, I'll take this rotoscope.
I didn't even know that Andy Ellis was available on this version.
Yeah, well, it's no match for my Anagu.
Oh shit, I've not seen that one since Samuel Chessie used to play.
Never gonna be as good as Joshua Knapp though, take this.
Oh shit, right, I'm a Jason Urson back.
Yeah, if you press 3 squares, it's the Fezwear move.
You're gonna be DOA, just like Hammond DOA Argov.
I'm now gonna do my famous combo of litigation-Santa Claus. Take that.
Well, get ready for me to pull off the Ryan Rider.
Yeah, I'll bring it in, Jump 366.
I saw this one when that old pro used to play, the Tyler Mason.
Well, I'm gonna bring in my finish mode, the Red Oak Shield Virus.
Oh, God! Oh, feels CB bad, D bad, doesn't it?
Yeah, bitch, told you I was good at these games.
What you've just witnessed there is one of the fucking hell. One of the end slides to thank our patrons. Anyone in the VIP tier to get a shout out in one of these end slides. So this is some of them, and there'll be other ones.
I'm just looking forward to me just being like this.
I don't know what it's gonna look like. Me lifting my fucking leg up and trying to play. And yeah, join the Patreon at the VIP team if you want to have your name read out in whatever fashion we decide next time.
Yeah, thanks.